calling our mission Inspiration 4. It's the first all-civilian mission to space. For as much as we'd like to conquer and drive progress in space, you can't ignore the problems of the world we live in today. I couldn't think of any other organization that I wanted to support with this program more than St. Jude.
I think the people who will really be impacted are going to be the kids. They'll be able to see a cancer survivor in space, someone just like them.
One of the things we hope to accomplish and why we named our mission Inspiration 4, to inspire others to be able to do extraordinary, maybe even unthinkable things like go out and venture amongst the stars today, but also to inspire people what's possible that can still be done here on Earth.
Hey everybody, it is a little bit early, 6:27, but I figured, hey, we'd get started and do our thing here. And what I thought I would do, first of all, if you don't know who I am, I'm Lon.TV. I've been doing a YouTube channel for a while. I love space. I cover technology, so this is a good, a good thing to kind of align with what my channel's goals are. And what we're doing today is following the splashdown of the Dragon spacecraft that's carrying 4 civilians back from orbit. And these folks are normal, everyday people. Actually, one of them's a billionaire, but the other 3 are not. They were chosen, 2 of them were chosen kind of at random. There was a contest that they ran for entrepreneurs, one that I did enter and unfortunately, obviously, didn't get to go, but that's okay. I'm really happy for the people that were selected. In fact, Dr. Sion Proctor won on that particular contest, and she's great. I think she was the right choice. I would have picked her too if I was choosing. And then there's also another guy that kind of won randomly. His name is Chris Zembrowski. And there was a way you could enter just by buying kind of like those Omaze tickets, like a donation thing. So he donated. Actually, a friend of his was the one who won, and then his friend gave him the seat. So that's a nice $50 million gift that he had right there. So what we're going to be doing tonight is following, I'm going to see if I can get my thing to update. Here we go. Is following the Dragon spacecraft on its way down. So it's set to land at 7:06, about a half an hour from now, and it's going to land on the off the east coast of Florida. Actually, it's going to splash down. I shouldn't say land. It's going to splash down off the east coast of Florida, and right now it's just passing Australia, as you can see. And what it's going to do is kind of loop around the globe here and end up right over here, where it's going to splash down in the ocean. And what's happening right now is that the spacecraft is preparing to enter the atmosphere. So it's getting lower and lower. They fired a burn to slow it down. And eventually the Earth's gravity is just going to take it right in. And if you do your math right, you end up where you want to end up. And I have some video I can show you about exactly what's going to happen. So the first thing we're going to look at here, let's see if I get it up here. Yep. This is kind of an animation of what is happening. So right now they fired that phasing burn. That's already happened. And I'll take some questions here when we get going in a minute with Q&A. And then they dropped the trunk, which they've already done as well. And the deorbit burn has occurred as well. So we're pretty much right here at this very moment. What will happen after that is they'll close the top hatch. The spacecraft will begin atmospheric interface, if you will, and then after it gets through that, it will deploy parachutes and it will float down to the ocean, again, off the east coast of Florida. And SpaceX has an entire fleet of ships that will come by and pick them up. And they've done this now many times. In fact, they've been flying these Dragon capsules for quite a while now. This is something that they have a lot of experience with. And for the crew, you go from, this is the crazy part about it, you go from being weightless to being really heavy, because there's going to be a lot of G-forces pulling as you're going, landing or entering the atmosphere, because you're going from 17,500 miles an hour to a few hundred miles an hour. So you will feel that. So you go from no gravity to like 3 Gs, and then you have the parachute deploy, and then it's kind of like 1 G, but you're kind of swinging back and forth. And if we get good video from them, we should be able to see that swing as they come down. And then, to make matters worse for everybody, once it hits the ocean, that impact kind of feels like a small car crash because you're not hitting the ocean all that hard, but you're probably going about 10 or 15 miles an hour, maybe 20 miles an hour. So there's a bit of a impact, and then you're floating. So it's going to feel, I'm sure, a bit disorienting to go from weightless to 3Gs to swinging to sitting in the ocean bumping around. And if you can imagine, if you're up in the space station for 6 months and then you experience that, it's got to be quite an experience there. Now, what we're doing today is a fundraiser for St. Jude. So if you are watching on YouTube, there's a donation button where the super chat typically is, and you can contribute to St. Jude. So I don't get any of the money here. It goes right to St. Jude. And this fundraiser is what every YouTube channel that's currently doing what I'm doing is using for this fundraiser. And this is going to the benefactor of this mission. They wanted to make this a fundraiser for St. Jude. I think they wanted to raise, $400 million or thereabouts. So it's a great cause. What St. Jude's does, if you saw the video when we started, St. Jude's is a hospital for children with cancer and other severe illnesses. And they treat those illnesses completely free of charge to the family. And it's not only the child that gets the treatment, it's also the family as well. So they have psychological support for the family. They put the family up so the family doesn't have to incur any expenses being with their child. They can focus just on helping out their child. Now, if you're watching on Amazon, it turns out St. Jude has an official store on Amazon, and they've got t-shirts and some other stuff that you can purchase there, which benefits them. But if you want, head over to YouTube and make a donation, which will be a more direct conduit. And I guess YouTube doesn't charge any fees, maybe beyond the credit card fees, to St. Jude. So good cause, definitely worth checking out. And if you have questions, leave them in the comment stream, and I'll start taking a few here. So our first question comes in from my friend Lon Dog, a different Lon, who says, 2 more trips around the Earth before landing? No, they are done. So this current orbit that they're on is the last one. So once they get to Florida, that's when they'll be hitting the ocean. So that's what's happening. Yeah, I wanted to do a stream for the launch. I had to do a volunteer thing the night that it did launch, so unfortunately I couldn't be here for that, but I figured, hey, we can cover the landings or the splashdown, so why not? So let me show you one more animation, which looks a little more interesting than what we just watched, and I'll do a little voiceover as we go here so you can see what happens. Let me just turn the audio off here. So this is what it would look like departing from the space station, but this is kind of the same process after you get to this point. So that trunk that it just attached there, that is the solar panels and some of the other things that they use while they're in space to supply power and some systems to the spacecraft. And when they go to enter the Earth's atmosphere, they have to get rid of that because the heat shield is on the bottom of the Dragon capsule. And then this is what happens when it gets into the atmosphere. Remember, it's going not quite full speed at this point. It was at 17,500 miles an hour to stay in orbit, but they do slow it down so the Earth's gravity can bring it back in. But you're still going thousands of miles per hour, and at that speed, the atmosphere heats up because you've got a lot of friction from that high-speed spacecraft hitting the atmosphere at the speed that it hits. And the heat shield, oops, I'll turn off that audio again. The heat shield is ablative, so it kind of breaks away as it falls down, and then once it gets into the lower atmosphere, there are parachutes that deploy, and the astronauts will go from black sky to blue sky to clouds, and then a view of the ocean, and those parachutes will gently drop it off in the ocean. Maybe we might get, probably a little bit, we might have a little sunset there when they come in, so it might be very similar to this. And what you'll see when they hit the ocean is they'll have boats in the vicinity. They know where it's going to come down. They're very good at precisely targeting where it's going to end up. And those boats will pick up the capsule. They're going to bring it onto a ship. And it's going to take a while, so they're going to be sealed in there for a little bit because the spacecraft uses these hypergolics, which are really carcinogenic, poisonous fuel gases that it uses to maneuver in orbit. And they're going to want to make sure that those hypergolics are not in the air around the capsule. So you'll see them bring it on the ship and it'll stay there for a while. So it's pretty cool. Vin H is asking, what's the best angle of descent? You know, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. And, you know, one of the things that happened once or twice with the Soyuz spacecraft, which is the Russian one, is that sometimes they hit at a shallower angle and it knocks them off course, and the G-forces are more severe. And they actually have designed the spacecraft to handle that should there be an emergency, but I'm not sure exactly what the angle is on that. So we will keep an eye on that. And I just got a tweet that the deorbit burn is complete, so they are on the way home. And the good news is that those burns are done. And the other good news is that they have their heat shield exposed, so they can get through there. And as you can see right now, they're kind of halfway through the Pacific Ocean, or not quite halfway, maybe halfway between Australia and the coast of California. So they're going to head right over Central America, and then they're going to go over Florida and land on or splash down on the other side of Florida. So I also have the SpaceX webcast up here too, so we'll keep an eye on that and see where they are headed. And what I might do is put that up right now so you can have a listen, and we'll see what's next here. So stand by.
And what I would expect to hear is we heard those Quindar tones, those beeps from crew to core and core to crew. Expect those to start to pop up again as we're coming out of that blackout period. We want to make sure that we reestablish communication with the crew.
Yeah, and actually, before we go into the blackout period, we should hear some comms as well. Again, the core here in Hawthorne, Mission Control Hawthorne, communicates with the team, makes sure that they know which event is coming up next so that they know what to expect. And so we should be hearing some of that confirmation that they will be going into the blackout period, as well as some confirmation and some comms when they exit that period.
Altitude.
So again, we are currently just waiting for confirmation of nose cone closure. Once we confirm that, the next event after that will be the blackout period that we have mentioned. Again, that will last about 7 minutes.
Okay, so what they're talking about is that
what you're seeing on your screen right now is Mission Control Hawthorne.
So what'll happen is once they get into the atmosphere and that plasma starts kind of enveloping the capsule, that interferes with communication. So there's a blackout, and then they know how long that should be approximately, and then when they come out of that, they'll regain communications with the crew.
Yeah, and the recovery team and the launch team did a great job looking at weather, looking ahead, because Florida weather in the fall can be tricky, but we got excellent weather during liftoff on Wednesday, and a pretty darn good weather right now for Splashdown as well.
Yeah, when we did get some live views of.
There was a question about, so let me pull up our question thing here. There was a question about what happens to the trunk. So the trunk will burn up in the atmosphere because they detach it once they've pretty much started that trajectory downward. So it's going to stay up a little bit longer, but it's eventually going to come back down, and it won't be up there all that long. They've actually, believe it or not, they've gotten a lot better about space junk, not just SpaceX, but everybody that sends things up, because there's a growing issue with it. So most of the things that get detached and have to burn up are going to go back down. So on these SpaceX rockets, you've probably seen those rocket boosters land on the ocean or on the ground. So they reuse those first stage boosters, but the second stages almost always are, getting pretty much trashed. And so they leave enough fuel in them to deorbit the second stage and have them splash down somewhere in the ocean. So they try to keep them far away from hitting anybody on the land. Although I think there was one recently that ended up in Oregon somewhere, so that was a little crazy. Here is where it is currently at, so we're getting closer. And it just gives you a sense of just how fast this thing is, right? So just a few minutes ago when we started the stream, they were just off the coast of Australia, and now they're kind of making a beeline here right into Florida. So we'll see what happens here. And if you want to take a look at their spacesuits here, we can pull that up and give you a little bit.
It is essentially a mini spacecraft. There's an umbilical from the leg portion that will hook up to Dragon, and that will route communications and electronics, as well as, again, routing the air needed to keep the suit pressurized in case of a depressurization event, or if they need to be purged with cool air, it can do that as well.
Yeah, and some of the cool manufacturing features, the helmet is 3D printed. The material of the exterior of the suit is heat resistant, as well as the gloves are designed, they're conductive so that they're designed to be able to use them on the touchscreen.
Yeah, and again, they're all custom made for each of the astronauts. The chairs themselves are also custom fitted. There are a couple of different sizes, and the armrests can be adjusted.
So one of the things that if you watch so there was a Netflix special called Countdown, and there's actually 4 episodes. The 5th one is going to be whatever they took up in orbit. And the Countdown show that's on Netflix shows you the process of getting them measured for their suits. And it's not like going to get like a suit at the tailor. Like they took measurements of their finger length, like each finger, like each suit is custom made for each astronaut. And yeah, so this is the SpaceX feed, which is the same thing as what I currently have up on my screen here. So you can see where they're headed. And yeah, they'll start to slow down now because now they're hitting the atmosphere. So all of those effects will slow down the trajectory here, but they will end out by the math on hopefully the east coast of Florida, where they will come down. And let's see if we can get some more. Oh yeah, so here's the other problem. Let me pull this up real quick because this has been bugging me all week. And this happens every time SpaceX does anything. These people are like doing these fake streams of Elon Musk to try to get people to buy cryptocurrency or whatever. And a lot of times what they're doing is they're taking over. So whenever you hear about people getting their channels taken over, they get taken over, they rename the channel, and then they try to use all those subscribers to do live streams to get them to do bad things like this. And this is a legit coverage of the splashdown here. So this is a legit one. But MG First says, is this the best publicity? Yeah, this is, I mean, obviously, I think they're going to get a lot more customers for this. So the deal is here. So this is what's interesting about what SpaceX is doing with these commercial flights. So this is the first of many. So I think they've got like a couple already booked out. So this one was the first, obviously. They went up and down for 3 days. So they launched on the 15th, and they're coming back today on the 18th. So they were up pretty much for 3 days. We're going to talk a little bit on Monday on the wrap-up about some things that I think they didn't do correctly from the communication standpoint. But we'll get to that on Monday's show. So what this mission was kind of the first. Jared Isaacman, who's the commander of the mission, paid for the flight. So he probably paid north of $150 million, if not more than that. But what he did, rather than just make it a buddy trip, he brought a nurse, or actually, I'm sorry, a physician's assistant, a PA, from St. Jude Medical Research Hospital for Children. She was a cancer survivor. She has a prosthetic leg. She had her bone replaced with a rod. So it's the first person in space with a prosthesis, and also now the youngest person ever to go to space. She's only, I think, 28 or 29. So he picked her from the hospital. Actually, I think the hospital picked her. And the other 2 seats were pretty much a contest. There was 2 different contests to get the other 2 seats. So he did not know who his crewmates were going to be when he set out to do this. And I think this was the right way to do it. Rather than this being just a billionaire joyride, it was something that could actually do some good. So the fundraising goal was $200 million for St. Jude. And incidentally, if you're watching on YouTube, instead of Super Chats today, if you click on the little heart button there where it says Donate Now, you can donate to St. Jude. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do, I'll do $50. So I'm going to do $50 to St. Jude. I'm going to click Continue here. Let's see if it works here. Inspiration 4, okay, so I'm hitting Continue. It's not letting me contribute. Has anyone tried to contribute? It's not letting me donate. I don't know if, let me go into the actual video. But you can contribute to St. Jude. So it's not going to me, it's not going to YouTube, it is going to St. Jude for this mission. And so this is part of the effort. Now, we have not raised $542 million on this channel, but let me hit the continue here. There it goes. But this is the total amount that's been donated across all of the, let me hit done here, across all of the YouTube channels that are doing this. So that's how that works. So now you'll see that, oh, somebody anonymously donated $50. Thank you very much for the anonymous contribution. Hopefully I didn't do it twice. So thank you for that. And yeah, so you can contribute to St. Jude. So I don't get the money, YouTube doesn't get the money, St. Jude gets the money. And if you're watching on Amazon, I've got some St. Jude stuff from their official store, the t-shirts that are there. But if you prefer, you can go over to my YouTube channel at Lon.TV and contribute directly via YouTube. So we have raised $100 so far. So there we go. And Eric's Variety Channel says he didn't do it. Well, if he did do it, thank you for that. So we are now just waiting for what's going to happen here. Now, they just announced on their page here that they have raised $150 million in total so far. Now, $100 million of that came from Isaacman himself. So they've brought in about $50 million separately from his contribution. And yeah, all we can do now is just kind of wait it out. So there, and we had another anonymous contribution of $20. Thank you very much for that contribution. So we are probably about 15 minutes or so, yeah, maybe that's just under 20 minutes away from splashing down in Florida. So just to give you a sense of that, just imagine how long it would take for you to fly in an airplane from here to there, right? It would probably take several hours. And this is going to traverse the path there in about 20 minutes or so. And when they're in orbit, they're orbiting at 17,500 miles per hour. So you basically go around the world every 90 minutes. So every 45 minutes, it's daytime, right? And the other 45 minutes, it's nighttime. So you have sunrises and sunsets every time you are just sitting there watching. So it's got to be amazing. One of the things that I'm excited about is a new 3D virtual reality camera that is on the space station that they put outside. And I think what that's going to give you is a better sense of what the Earth looks like from orbit, because when you're in space, remember, the Earth is three-dimensional. It's got mountains and valleys and oceans, and you can never appreciate that from a 2D photograph. So this will be really cool. They put this camera outside the space station. So it's going to give you the view of what it would be like if you were sitting on the back porch of the space station on VR. I forgot who's doing it, but I think it's going to be on the Oculus Quest. So be on the lookout for that, because I think that's going to be a really cool way to appreciate that. And Randall Constant is here. Hello. Thanks for joining the chat on Amazon. And we're just waiting on what's going on here. Let me pull the audio up from the feed, and see what they're saying.
Mission 4 mission. This is the first all-civilian crew out to orbit, and now they've been out there for about 3 days and now making their way back. And the crew on board is Jared Isaacman, who's the commander for the mission. He is the 38-year-old CEO of Shift4 Payments.
Looks like they're filling time right now as they're waiting for the spacecraft to get back in. But Jared Isaacman is the guy that paid for the flight. He's a billionaire. He got into the payment processing business for restaurants. So, you know, he makes a cut of every sale that restaurants do. And then he went out and started buying, he's an aviator, and he bought fighter jets, and he contracts with the military for it. So Haley is the physician's assistant from St. Jude. She's been a lot of fun to watch on the Netflix series. She was never really into aviation before, but she had it was really fun watching her on that show. And these spacesuits are functional, but they were designed by a Hollywood actor. And we got a UK contribution from Ian Powell. Thank you very much. And I do believe St. Jude treats people from other countries too. It's not just the U.S. So thank you for that. Dr. Sion Proctor is the one who won the seat for the contest that I applied for. She's great. I was so happy that they picked her because, first of all, my wife was happy that they picked her for my kids. But also, I think she was hands down the best of the bunch that applied for that one. Believe it or not, there was only 150 of us that applied. Isn't that crazy? So, but she was actually about to become a NASA astronaut and got to like the last stage, and they didn't accept her. So she thought that door was closed, and 10 years later, she got to go, which is really cool. So really neat lady. Definitely check her out on Twitter. Dr. Proctor, I believe, is her name on Twitter. And Chris Zembrowski is the one who won like the random raffle, although his friend won it, and then his friend gave him the seat because he was always a space nut like me. And he's a Air Force veteran and works at Lockheed Martin. So he actually works at a SpaceX competitor. So I wonder if they were careful about what he got to see on the flight there. So cool guy. Now it looks like they may have just heard from them because there was a tweet that came out. I'm getting these notification tweets from the Inspiration 4 account. So let's see if
back down to Earth and as part of the Inspiration 4 mission.
I'm so excited to see them come back home, and I can't wait to hear their stories from being out in space. Again, just the first all-civilian crew. You know, they're not professional astronauts. I can't wait to hear their stories coming back from that.
Yeah, it looks like they've had a really fun time. I was watching the interview with the St. Jude children yesterday, and they were throwing M&Ms all over the capsule.
Thermodynamic acceleration.
And with the microgravity, just darting them down and trying to chase them down. So they're obviously very, very good friends, and work very, very well together.
So yep, we're still killing time here.
And we are entering.
We'll be seeing something soon. I think we'll probably start seeing something in about the next 5 minutes or so. So I'll take some questions here. Lon Dog had a question, which is, when an astronaut looks at the Earth, do they generally say it's round, or is there a large chunk out of it, like it was hit with an asteroid? So you really, I guess in some of the desert areas where there are craters, you could see the craters, but generally it kind of looks like the pictures, but there's more depth to it. Like when you're orbiting over mountains, you'll see that depth. I guess it depends on how high your orbit is, but I've seen some pictures from, it was some really like super high def footage from the space station, and you could see kind of the parallax of the height differences of mountains and stuff. So I think that VR thing is what I'm going to be looking forward to. And Ed Horn is here from Motown. Hello. Zora said I should have won. Hey, it's cool. I think I will get a chance to go eventually. And yeah, so what's funny? I've been really like emotionally invested in this, more so than I have been for a space thing in a while, partly because even though I'm sure I wasn't a finalist for this, but I can honestly say that I was in the top 155 because that was all that applied for it. So it was the closest to space that I ever got, even if I didn't make it past the first round. But it was cool, and I really appreciate that he did this. Now the next flight is just a flight full of billionaires. They're all going up to the space station to visit the space station. So that one's going to be, that one, I'm sure they'll have some broadcast of it going up, but that one is not going to have the level of attention that this one did. I think the one after the billionaire trip, the multi-billionaire trip, there's 3 billionaires and an astronaut on that one. The one after that is, the next private one, I think, is Tom Cruise, who's going to film a movie in space on the space station. And get this, the Russians were going to film a movie up there also, and they were supposed to go up after Tom Cruise, and they decided to send their actors up before Tom Cruise. And now the guy that was supposed to come down on the Russian spacecraft from the US is now up there for an extra 3 months because they swapped the flights out. Isn't that crazy? So, but yeah, so Tom Cruise, I think sometime next year. So this is the last civilian flight for this year. Next month, there's another NASA mission that SpaceX is doing. So what was supposed to happen was SpaceX was supposed to get one NASA mission a year and Boeing was going to get the other one. But because Boeing isn't ready yet, they keep having trouble. So now we're in the communications blackout, by the way. So now that Boeing is in trouble, SpaceX has been getting all of the NASA business. So they do 2 launches a year for NASA. And then they can, in the off month or whatever, they can do whatever they want. So in October, there's NASA astronauts going up. And then in January, the billionaire bunch is going up. And then after the January flight, there's another NASA one, I think. And then following the NASA one, that's when Tom Cruise is going. I think that's how they're doing it. So here's a good question from MG Fur about who's flying the spaceship. So there was a lot of talk about this because there was a few articles that said, oh, it's all automated, they don't have to do anything. And the truth is that these spacecraft, even going to the space shuttle, they've all been automated, both going up and coming down. The space shuttle really only was manually controlled on the way down when they got into pretty much the final approach onto the runway. Because the speeds involved are so fast that a human can't react to it. So they've been automated for a very long time. I would even say the Apollo ones, I think, were mostly automated. So they did train, though, if something went wrong, to be able to control it themselves. But this thing, for the most part, when it's in Earth's atmosphere, it is either going up on a rocket or it's falling. There's no control that you can really have with it on Earth, but you can control it in orbit with the maneuvering thrusters that they have. And they train for that. And actually, Dr. Proctor, who won the Prosperity seat, and Isaac Min, who's the guy that paid for it, they're both pilots. So they have some aviation experience. So she was the pilot on the flight, and so he and Herb had more training than the other two. And if you watch the Netflix series, you can see some of what they did there. So Gareth is saying, yeah, I don't think it's IMAX. I think what they are shooting on is these 4K cameras that Netflix uses. So the footage they shot up there, you won't see unless you have a Netflix subscription. So that was kind of the controversy on this. We're going to talk about that on tomorrow night, or Monday night. Because there was some controversy about the Netflix thing, was there exclusivity, that sort of thing. But you will get 4K, really nice 4K footage, I hope. And I'm sure they got a lot of training on exposure for the camera there. And Ian Powell, yes, so Tom Cruise, yes, Tom Cruise is seriously going to make a space movie. He is going up into space to make a movie. And yeah, he will get, so anyone that goes on one of these SpaceX craft has to get trained the same way the NASA astronauts get trained. Now these folks started, I think, in like late March. So think about the whirlwind. Like you're that guy, Chris, the guy that just kind of won randomly. You're living your life, doing your thing. You got your wife and kids. All of a sudden, you get a call, and now you're training to be an astronaut. Like, really? So they went from March to September. And it doesn't seem like a long time. It really isn't. But they were only going up for 3 days. They were not doing any spacewalks. They weren't docking with the space station. So there's not much. Oh, here we go. There's not much to really learn here. I mean, there's a lot, but it's not as much as what the NASA people would get. Let's pull the audio up and see.
Seeing Dragon coming back down to Earth right there.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is the first shot of the Dragon capsule coming back as part of the Inspiration 4 mission. The crowd here is super excited seeing that for the first time as well. So yeah, a couple minutes left of the blackout period, and we should be getting comms reestablished with the crew here shortly.
So now they're coming out from that blackout, and they use these thermal cameras, kind of like FLIR cameras. I gotta find it. I have a really cool video that we shot. So a friend of mine was able to borrow a fancy FLIR camera, and we went to the last space shuttle landing. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It was cool because we could see it coming all the way down, because they're not like hot. You know, they're warmer than. Yeah, there you can see it here. That's not the space shuttle. This is the SpaceX one. I was going to see if I can find my footage real quick because it was pretty cool. So they're going to keep an eye on it here, but the fact that it's obviously intact means that we're in good shape here. So they got through the worst of it, and I think we should hear.
Again, that is Dragon in the center of your screen. We've got visuals of it, and we're expecting drogue chutes to deploy, and then the main chutes shortly after that here in a couple of minutes.
So they're in good shape. They got through the probably the most dangerous part of the re-entry, so that's good. And Chris Copeland just sent me an image. Let me see on my email here.
Again, a lot of excitement for Inspiration 4 crew's return, waiting on drogue chute deploy. That happens at about 18,000 feet.
Dragon, brace for drogue window.
Okay, so now the drogue chutes are coming out.
SpaceX, we're bracing.
And there's a bit of a jolt when those parachutes first come out. So these are the drogue chutes. So these are the smaller of the two parachutes.
On re-entry, the team's experiencing about 3 to 5 Gs.
We heard some words to have them brace for a drogue deploy. They will feel the difference in speed when the chutes do deploy. That was what the core mentioned there. That's such a cool shot of Dragon coming back down to Earth. It looks very fast in this camera view here.
And so right now it's just free falling. That's a good shot. Looks like the drogue chutes have deployed, so that's a good sign. Yep, there you go. Now those are going to come off. So when you see those drogue chutes fly away, don't be concerned about that. That's normal. So what that does is it kind of slows it down a little bit before the big chutes come out. And the big chutes are going to deploy pretty slowly because you don't want them to fill up and inflate too quickly. So now we're just going to wait for those drogue chutes to get them slowed down a bit. Looks like a nice day.
But the drogue's job is to slow the vehicle down.
And it's funny, it's darker here in Connecticut than it is in Florida because they're a little further
We are expecting
away.
the main chutes for these to cut off and the main chutes to come shortly after this.
Yep, so now I think the video might be slightly behind. Yeah, so there goes the drogue chutes. They cut them away. So now they're free. Well, there goes the main chutes. There we go. So and you'll see those slowly inflate. You don't want them to inflate too quickly because that would really not be a fun experience. And now they're fully inflated. So once you get to this part, you got a good chance of making it through. Now just think though, you'll see this as it's coming down. You know, you're feeling gravity again, and you can feel yourself, you know, dangling off the end of these parachutes. So the experience is,
1,000.
yeah, they're 1,000 feet. They're almost there.
The next event coming up now is a visual confirmation of Splashdown. You can see
and they predicted it at 7:06. They're right on the money. Think about the math involved with that, right?
Now we've talked about how fast the vehicle has been traveling, but they will be touching down approximately 15 miles per hour when they touch the Atlantic Ocean there.
800 SpaceX.
800 feet.
We copy 800.
So think about this. You're
Yeah,
hitting the water
Dragon
at
1
15
program
miles
had
an
a
hour.
great
So that's like
success with
being in
water
a
landing
low-speed
with
car
20
crash.
successful splashdowns over the course of that program, 9 of which were carried out by flight-proven Dragon spacecraft.
And the Russians come down on land, and the Chinese do also.
This is a great shot. Dragon continuing to descend back towards Earth, again targeting a landing, a splashdown off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean.
Copy 600.
Deadheads wonders if there's a. Now they're a pretty loud group. Watch the the first Falcon Heavy launch. You can get a feel for it. They're pretty enthusiastic, as they should be. The documentary had some of the SpaceX employees who were 400 feet, who were
Copy 400.
talking about how unusual it was for them to be home from work at 7 p.m. But see how it's rocking back and forth? Just imagine being in that, experiencing gravity for the first time in 3 days and having that rocking motion. And then when the rocking stops, you're going to be floating in the water. So if you're prone to seasickness and prone to space sickness,
we're bracing.
We copy 200.
and it's definitely a little toasty, that's normal for it to look like that. They'll repaint it before the next mission. And Eric said he's done some belly flops that can feel like concrete. So yeah, just imagine that. So it's like a low-speed car crash. I interviewed an astronaut once who landed on the Soyuz, and she said, it's kind of like a car crash. Not a bad one, but it's, because the Russians land on ground. They have a little rocket that fires off right before it hits. Now, I think they're cheering because their feed is ahead of ours. So here you go. Oops. And there you are. They have made it back. And now they're floating. So imagine that. And then they're tipping over. So that's okay. That's supposed to do that. So now what's going to happen is you'll see the boats are already heading out. So they got these super fast boats. And the first thing they're going to do is this guy is going to jump off the boat.
Inspiration 4, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home to planet Earth. Your mission
He's going
is
to
show
jump
the world
off the
that
boat.
space is for all of us, and that everyday people can make extraordinary impacts in the world around them. Thank you for sharing your leadership, hope, generosity, and prosperity. And congratulations on your incredible journey.
Thanks so much, SpaceX. It was a heck of a ride for us. It's just getting started.
Copy, just getting started.
I can imagine the families of everybody on that capsule are quite relieved at this point. And so what will happen is those boats will approach the capsule.
Inspiration 4, the Dragon
And they'll
Resilience
tie it up.
capsule.
Now, I don't know what we're going to see after this.
What a phenomenal,
With the NASA
phenomenal
missions, they keep
visual that we
going.
got. And I love that Jared said, we're just getting started.
On the NASA missions, they keep the footage rolling. Oh, look, you see that dolphin jump?
And just, what an incredible mission. What an amazing view watching them touch down and splash down into the Atlantic Ocean. You could hear the crowd here. So excited to welcome the crew back home.
Yes. So we do have a couple of events that need to happen first before we can start to get the crew out of the capsule. So you can see some boats headed towards Dragon. The first job is to make sure that the area around Dragon is safe to approach, and then we'll go in there, start rigging the Dragon up to be able to hoist later on onto our main recovery vessel. So we also heard that Jared had given us the confirmation of stable 1. What that means is Dragon has splashdown and is upright. There's also stable 2. Dragon can actually be upside down or sideways. It is waterproof and has systems where it can pump seawater into some bladders to help keep it upright. So again, stable 1 is the best possible scenario that we can achieve, and that's what we see on screen right now.
And just something to note, there are going to be a few operations that happen before the crew can get out of the capsule, so they will be strapped into their seats, remain strapped into their seats throughout this these operations until basically until hatch open once we have the Dragon capsule on board the recovery vessel. So we do have some events coming up next. The fast boats will be approaching the Dragon capsule. They'll be doing some inspections to make sure that it is safe before we begin operations to lift Dragon out of the water onto the recovery vessel.
Dragon, SpaceX's go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in 1 minute.
And copy that, SpaceX. We're looking forward to seeing you.
All right, so now these guys are going to come up to the ship there. So let's take a few questions here. And I want to grab this one because this is going to be the point we're going to make on Monday's show about Christmas here says 3 days in space already. I thought they launched yesterday. And that was what happened was is they launched on the 15th. What day was that? Was that Wednesday? They launched on Wednesday night. So Wednesday at 8 p.m. So they were almost 3 days. So they were there Wednesday night into Thursday, Friday, and then today they came back. Partly because there's not a lot of creature comforts on the capsule. They have a bathroom, a toilet, but they don't have like a lot of, it was really designed to go to the space station and back. So it's not something you'd want to spend, 2 weeks up there on. The space shuttle was kind of tuned for longer term flight. So what's happening now is they're going to tie it up and get the recovery ship over there. But what I was going to bring up was the fact that, they went up on Wednesday night and nobody heard a thing from them once they were up in orbit. So like the Inspiration 4 Twitter account just went dark. Nobody heard a peep out of them. And I don't think it was until, I got to look up exactly when it was, but I think it wasn't until the following morning. It was much later that SpaceX actually said, oh, they're fine. And the suspicion is that they were all space sick and they were not able to do anything because they were not acclimating well. And that's normal. Actually, even for seasoned astronauts, space sickness is like part of the deal. But the Inspiration 4 PR people never communicated anything. So there was a lot of concern. And by the way, they're fine. They're on the ground. Everybody's good. But when they went up, nobody heard from the official sources for over 24 hours. So there was a lot of concern that, is the crew okay? Like, what's going on? And for whatever reason, the PR people were only talking to the major media outlets. And I can almost guarantee you what the discussion was between the Inspiration 4 people and the media was, on background, which is always meaning don't print this, they're fine, but a little space sick, we'll probably give it 24 hours. So because they probably said on background or off the record, nobody printed anything, but the media wasn't asking questions either. And that's what led me to think that there must have been some background discussions there. This is the inside of the ship right now. And now they're bobbing around in the ocean after being weightless for 4 days. It's got to be a rough, taking some pictures there. So, I think they could have handled the communication with the public better because a lot of people thought that, okay, they went up, now what? Are they okay? We didn't hear from them. And then yesterday they did a lot. So they did a live stream to the public. They released some video that they had done the day before. So, it got better. I would say in hindsight, they probably would have wanted an extra day because the acclimation can be rough. Even for like seasoned pilots, it's really tough. And you can't predict how someone's going to be in zero G. So you could be the most fit person, you could be a fighter jet pilot, you could be, the most seasoned, aviator and mariner, and you could be sick as a dog. You just have no way of knowing. So, yeah, no shower. And also remember, there is a toilet, but it's just in the capsule with everything else. They have like a curtain.
The camera actually has not moved, but the seats, from what you've seen previously.
Yeah, you can see it's bobbing up and down quite a bit. So you got the bathroom smells. You have, I think some of them were probably, puking a little bit. So you had that smell. So it's probably everyone I've talked to that's been in space, and I've talked to quite a few astronauts. It's not a very good smell in space. Let's put it that way. One astronaut told me that the space station smelled like a dirty locker room. kind of smell. And they do have showers up there, but you know, there's just you can't throw your garbage out the window, so there's just smells that are not always that pleasant. And you know, the space station has been up in space for 20 years, just kind of orbiting, right? So. But yeah, they are okay. Just to answer Ryan's question, they're perfectly fine. This is all routine with what's going on here now. So they've got these folks out there right now are called the SpaceX Ninjas, and these folks are the people that get it ready to be picked up by the ship. So they have a recovery ship that's going to a larger boat that'll come over and use a crane to pull it out of the water. So what this guy on the capsule right now is doing is securing the cabling that they need to connect to that crane.
Make sure that they are qualified to perform these operations.
And that guy has to jump off that inflatable boat to get up there. He's done this a number of times. It's actually fun to watch. There's some video, I think, on YouTube, so you can get some better images of him doing what he does. But think about that. Like, that's your job. You must live for that. And they call them SpaceX Ninjas because they look like ninjas. They dress in all black, and now they're all wearing masks for COVID, so they're even more ninja-like than they were before. And so the spacecraft is on battery power, because remember, they jettisoned that trunk before they entered the atmosphere. There goes the line.
Dragon SpaceX, with the public.
And so they're not coming out until they pull it up on the ship. It looks like they just lost the feed there. Oh, they're still there. And again, just put this in perspective. You go from space with no gravity to heavy G's on the way down to
just now
1G,
joining us, you are tuned into the Inspiration 4 mission.
dangling off the end of a parachute, to
Earth,
then hitting the water at a slow-speed car crash kind of experience, like 15 miles an hour to the water, like just right. And then you're floating. So it's pretty it's gonna test your ability to not be seasick.
Out of the water onto the recovery vessel. And on your left-hand screen is the live view inside of Dragon of the crew. And it's just been such an incredible mission so far. Like, they lifted off on Wednesday, expected to be in space for about 3 days. They were able to perform some science experiments. They were able to do some charity events, talk to, again, this mission was all for a fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So they got to talk to some St. Jude patients live while in space and doing backflips.
It looks like we got another $20 anonymous contribution on the St. Jude fundraiser that we are doing, so thank you for the contributor there.
We cannot stress that this is the first all-civilian crew. Their day job is not being an astronaut. They were trained in the same simulations and same manuals that previous Dragon crew members were trained in, and they got together, threw together this amazing mission. Again, providing fundraising capabilities for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. They gave us a live on-orbit event yesterday. They spent a couple of days in space, did some art, did some photography, did some somersaults, and now they're back on Earth. And in a few minutes here, they're gonna take a fresh breath of fresh air from fresh breath of Earth air for the first time in about 3 days. It's very, very exciting.
Now think about this. These folks were only up since Wednesday.
I cannot wait.
But the space station astronauts are up for 6 months or more at a time, right? So that's pretty
they were out there for 3 days.
pretty crazy.
That's
so here was another thing. So this is an example from every Kenyan here. This is an example of how the poor communication of their PR team really created this issue, which is, was there a Netflix exclusivity on media coming from the capsule? The answer is no, although they obviously had a lot of crew time that they had to use to record footage for the documentary, right? So, but apparently that was not the case, that Netflix had total exclusivity in all the media, but everyone assumed that because nobody heard anything. And the Inspiration 4 PR team didn't put that to bed. You know, so what's happened is, and this is all just like petty stuff, but what's happened is that, you know, a lot of people that are supportive of the mission, I'm supportive of what they're doing here, absolutely. But, you know, it's like, don't be negative. You know, they have privacy. They should get privacy. Da, da, da. There's no Netflix. It's all just a rumor. Okay, so if all these things are not true, then why not just say it, right? I mean, it's, you know, so, because I think what frustrated me was that the independent media, of which I'm a very, very, very small part of, I think the independent media could have helped with the fundraising if we had some ideas to what the media strategy was so that we could do kind of things like we're doing here. So, you know, granted, you know, we've got, you know, 200 people watching. We got another 100 or so watching on Amazon. You know, we've raised now 100, 120, 140. So we're about $160, $170 raised for St. Jude's. Now, not a lot of money, but if I was going, you know, a couple times a week throughout the course of different events, I think we could have raised more for them, right? So that was kind of my frustration. I just, you know, that PR that doesn't recognize the value of independent media is what really irks me. It gets me, it makes me angry because a lot of these folks are dismissive of independent outlets when we're actually driving the narrative of the modern age here. So, but I digress. But the good news is the crew is safe. They are just waiting to get plucked out of the water. And just imagine being on a boat. That is what it feels like for them right now. Except the difference is that you are experiencing gravity for the first time in 3 days. So let me pull this comment up because I think this is relevant to the discussion too. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think, you know, it was all about publicity from the start, absolutely. And I was like, you know, because some people are like, oh, well, you know, maybe the crew just wants some privacy up there. But I'm like, I would agree on the privacy thing for the capsule full of billionaires that's going up in January. Totally would agree with that. But in this case, this was a very public effort, and for a very good cause. I think they did, you know, they've raised a lot of money for St. Jude, and that money's going to be put to good use, and it's going to save the lives of young people and help those families out. I think they've done a great, you know, of all the ways to do this, they did this right. And, you know, there was all this hype, you know, leading up to the launch. And then there was a Netflix documentary, you know, so the fact that they should have some privacy, I don't think that was their goal. I suspect, and this is what I'm kind of piecing out, I've heard from some members of the media who were kind of told on background that apparently it was just an adapting to space issue, and that I think the crew wasn't feeling, and this is all normal, it happens to the professional astronauts. They were just not feeling well when they got up there. And so they needed a day, I think, to get acclimated. And what they should have said was, they're fine, they're gonna need a day just to get acclimated, you know. And I'm sure the PR person is thinking, like, what's ABC News gonna think if they're all sick up there? Like, that's what happens to the best of them. So it's okay. We should, you know that. So, you know, I think that's what kind of irked me. And this is the thing. It's like, you know, it's important, I think, to point out these things so that future efforts, because this is not going to be the first one of these. I'll tell you what, if somebody wants to give me $200 million, I will do another fundraiser for St. Jude. And I'll tell you what, if I go up there, if I'm puking, you're puking with me, right? You know, I'm going to show it all. But you know, and I get it. I don't think you want to turn it into a fishbowl where you're, you know, because it's very cramped quarters. There's a single bathroom that's in the middle of the capsule. Like, you don't want to show a 24-hour stream of it. But I think there was a lot of concern for the crew because they were, you know, once they hit the second engine cutoff, the SpaceX feed cut out. Nobody knew what was going on. So, you know, they definitely did better on day 2. So day 1, we didn't hear from them at all. At the end of day 1, we got a photo, and they had done a live stream to St. Jude. And then the following day, they did a live stream for the general public on the SpaceX. So that was yesterday. They did a live stream on the SpaceX page for the general public. Did about 10 minutes. And that was because they only have about 10 minutes of a window for the tracking and data relay satellites that they're using. So they did that. They put out a lot of pictures yesterday. They then uploaded the video that they had done the day before with St. Jude. So, you know, they were getting there. They were getting on track. So I think if they had an extra day or two, you know, it probably would have, I think, appeased more people. And I think they just didn't. I guess you know, again, the boss is in orbit. So what do you do? My guess is that the PR people didn't know what to do with the crew needing an extra day. I think that's probably what they were thinking. And it wouldn't have cost all that much more to keep them up an extra day. Granted, you have to pay for the SpaceX staff to monitor, but they're mostly there anyhow. So I'm not sure. Jose wants to know, is there still a quarantine after they return from space? I don't believe that happens anymore. There's one before they go, but not after. There was a quarantine for the Apollo astronauts because they were concerned about if there was a microbe on the moon that they may have picked up. But afterward, no. And I remember actually, I was at the last space shuttle landing for Atlantis when it came in, and they had a big party for everybody that had worked on the space shuttle program right next to where it landed, and the astronauts basically got off the space shuttle and just went to the party. So they were just hanging out with all these people. So I don't think they're going to quarantine. So sorry for missing that question earlier. Orion's Angel also had asked that. So yeah, I don't think there's a quarantine. But I will say, I would not expect us to see them exiting, because I think they were first getting used to space, and now they're bobbing in the ocean. And you know, so I remember when the last NASA crew came back, it's really tough, even on the professional astronauts when they return from the space station, because they actually get sick from the gravity, just like a lot of them get sick from the zero-G. So this is not all like glamour and adventure here. There's a lot of puking in space travel, okay? And so when they come back, they're pretty rough. And you'll see in Moscow or in Kazakhstan when they land on the Russian craft, you'll see that they put them in a little reclining chair, because they usually don't have the strength really to stand up that well. So it's pretty rough. Now these folks have only been up for 3 days, so they're not going to have that level of adjustment to get back into gravity. But I think because they just got used to being in space, like they're being back on Earth this quickly is going to be rough. I think the space shuttle missions usually went at least a week or more, so they had enough time to get adjusted. And I'm sure NASA built in time for that adjustment period. You know, kept the schedule lighter in the first day or two, and then kind of ramped it up from there.
That way we can get the vehicle out of the water and then the crew out of the Dragon.
So let's see how we're doing on the fundraising. Yeah, so if you want to contribute and you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the little donation button there. And this goes through YouTube. Yep, here comes the recovery ship. This goes through YouTube, so this is not a super chat for me. This goes right to St. Jude. And you'll see it on the screen when you click on it. It will go right to them. It's collected by St. Jude's Hospital, and there's no fees.
So yeah, it looks like they're all in great spirits. We have a really cool shot on the right-hand side of the screen. That is the back of Ghost Searcher, the main recovery vessel. Dragon is in the background, as well as some other supporting recovery vessel ships as well.
Yeah, this is, again, pretty incredible to see where we are today with this mission, first all-civilian crew. And ironically, it's so much like they just went and flew on an airplane as they're...
And so the recovery ships, they named after the two astronauts that first went up. So one ship is called Bob, and the other one's called Doug, because those are the first names of the astronauts. I'm not sure which ship is picking them up today, but it looks like they're going to get it in place there. So what's going to happen next is they're going to lift the capsule up with that crane that you see on the right-hand side. And they're going to pick it up and put it on that pad on the back of the ship. So SpaceX, in addition to having space ships, has ocean ships. So they've got these recovery vessels.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We've got some great news that we've raised up to $157 million so far. How incredible to do such a inspiring mission like this, as well as raise $157 million for such an amazing cause.
Yeah, so in the last 90 minutes, essentially, we raised $4 million. Keep it up, everyone. Thank you so much. Again, it's going to a great cause, and it's benefiting a lot of wonderful.
I don't know where they're getting that number from, $4 million, because like the one that we have on the YouTube page right now is what has been raised from every stream, including the SpaceX ones. So maybe they got money coming in from someplace else too.
For safety before installing.
Yeah, so the 568,000 raised. This is not from just my channel. This is all the channels. So everyone that's doing this today. But I appreciate everybody that's contributed.
And they will be lifting the vehicle in a few minutes here. Again, this is Ghost Searcher, and what you're seeing on your right-hand screen.
And Eric's right. This is actually a great thing that YouTube has done, which is that I think any registered 501c3 nonprofit you can set up a fundraising thing like this for, and it goes right to them. So this is in lieu of the super chat. So normally you would do a super chat, and it would go to me. In this instance, you do the donation, and it goes to St. Jude, and it gets assigned to the mission fundraisers. This one is the specific fundraiser for Inspiration 4's mission.
While they wait to be lifted onto Ghost Searcher.
So I don't know if the ship comes to the capsule or they bring the capsule to the ship. I can't remember. It looks like that their prop is moved in there, so they might be backing up to it. And you can see they've got a little bumper there. Okay, so now they're pulling it in. See, there's a line that just went in the water. So they must be pulling it in with a pulley thing. And Bonnie Hall sends some good wishes to the crew. I can guarantee you that they're not watching, but I will send an email to them. But this was good. And this is the first of many. So they've got another private mission going up in January. Like I said, that one's a capsule full of billionaires, so that one's going to be a little less interesting. But then Tom Cruise is going up after that. I kid you not.
Ensure that weather upon liftoff as well as return.
And yeah, so my understanding here, Eric, is that YouTube doesn't take the 30% on this thing. So this is like completely fee-free, is my understanding.
A lot easier for the crew to perform the recovery operation.
And yeah, definitely make a contribution. Again, this doesn't come to me; it goes right to them. So if you want to make a contribution, do so, and I can acknowledge you in the thing here. And by the way, you know, they're 501c3, so here in the US, you make a donation, tax deductible. It's a win-win. So here they come. They're pulling them in. At least the ocean is pretty calm, so that's nice. And if the weather was bad, they would have had to, you know, wait another day. So I think they had enough supplies for like 10 days, and they were only up for 3. So, but, you know, I learned a lot about St. Jude I knew what they did before, but if you haven't watched the Netflix documentary, definitely check it out, because they did a lot on Haley Arsenault, who's the PA that just flew on the mission. And it was a fun story, because she really didn't know much about space. In fact, when they told her about it, she said, "Are we going to the moon?" Right? And she really got into it. It was really fun. And actually, there was a great shot of her when they lifted off. Like, you could see she was just totally excited to go up into orbit. And, you know, one of the things about the weightlessness that they've experienced is that you are weightless because you're falling. So when you get into orbit, you're falling as you orbit. So basically, the capsule is falling around the Earth. So it's moving fast enough that it doesn't actually go down. It just goes around. So it's captured by the Earth's gravity, but it's falling constantly. So you're in free fall the entire time. So if you ever jumped off a high whatever, that's the feeling that you have. So it's it does a lot of numbers on your body fluids. I mean, it takes a lot of adjustment. There's a great book called Riding Rockets by Mike Mullane. He was a space shuttle astronaut. You can find it on Amazon. It is probably one of the best books I've ever read about the space program because he's incredibly candid about all the ups and downs, literally, of being an astronaut, including some of the craziness that happens when you go up into space for the first time. And there's some inside details about going to the potty up there too that I found to be quite.
We've got a crew member on the Dragon capsule at the moment.
And Eric's Variety Channel, thank you for your contribution.
Hoisting process to lift that Dragon capsule.
He didn't mean to do it anonymously, but. So thank you, Eric, for that, because you made yours at exactly the same time I made mine, and I was like, oh, geez, did I hit it twice? But now it looks like they're pulling it up onto the.
Dragon, brace for capsule lift.
Brace for capsule lifts. Looks like they're about to pull them up. Did somebody just jump in the water, or they just threw out a buoy? Oh no, there was a guy who just jumped in the water.
You heard some comms. They are getting ready to lift the Dragon capsule.
That dude just like jumped
recovery, crew member
right in the water to the boat. Probably because he's supposed to be on that boat. Oh, so I think that was the guy that probably brought the line over to attach to the pulley. And again, just remember that these folks have been floating around in space, and now they're bobbing around in the ocean, and now they're going to get pulled up. So here you go. They're getting pulled up. And it's completely buoyant, so it can float for a while. They're completely watertight because they're... Now look at the bottom there. So that's the heat shield on the bottom. So, you know, as it comes down, it's an ablative heat shield. Oh my goodness, can you just imagine what they're feeling in there right now? It's an ablative heat shield. So it burns away as it enters the atmosphere. So that's why it looks all destroyed, because it's gone. It like just burns up, but it keeps the capsule cool. And you don't see it bobbing there because of how the camera is connected to the capsule, but they are getting knocked around right now. And now they're going to be settled down onto the Now originally, and there's some water in that hole right there because that's where the parachutes came out.
Dragon, some water coming out. Again, that's the ballast system that helps keep Dragon upright in the seawater or in the ocean.
I'm mistaken. That's the ballast system.
Functioning as designed. And Dragon is now on the recovery vessel.
Dragon's almost a little bit of a mix of a rocket, spacecraft, and a little bit of a boat.
Yeah,
it does everything you need it to.
Yeah, exactly.
So now,
Dragon, welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks. Stand by for translation to Egress platform in approximately 1 minute.
Now what they're doing now, you see what they're doing here? They're I think one of these guys has got like a gas meter because they're going to be looking for those hypergolics. So they don't want to be, you don't want to be breathing any of that stuff in.
I see some fist pumps from Dr. Cyan as aboard the Dragon capsule right now. Next event coming up after the team does some safety checks.
Bonnie Hall loved it. Yeah, it was great. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
We're going to see the crew for the first time.
So you can catch that on Netflix, and then on the 30th, they're going to have all their footage from orbit. So the best images are really exclusive to Netflix because they shot it for Netflix, and so that's when you'll get a bulk of the imagery. ILM is here. Hello.
Some comms, just letting the crew know that they will be translating the Dragon on the nest and reorienting it into a position on Ghost Searcher so that it is in a good, stable position.
So far we've raised, let's see, 50, 100, 120, 140, and 5 pounds, so about 140. So about $150 raised for St. Jude tonight. So thank you everybody who contributed.
The cupola, the astronauts will egress from Dragon's side hatch. That's what you see.
All right, so now
Your screen. Pending capsule orientation from the water. So before
they're going to get it better secured, and then they're going to open the hatch. And I think they have a little ladder that they bring up. And this crew is going to be able to get out a lot better than the space station crews do because they were only up for 3 days, whereas the space station crews are up for anywhere from 90 days to 6 months. So it's a very different experience there.
On September 15th.
Grant Pudula wants to know, what is the doc called on Netflix? It is called Countdown, and if you search for Countdown, you will find it on Netflix. And you know, I was surprised. I thought it would. I thought it would make the top 10 Netflix shows, and it has not. And that's what kills me. Like why I like to cover the space stuff is that I want the public to be as excited about it as I am. Even my wife, I can't get her into this stuff. I was watching the documentary. I was totally into like watching the training and everything. And my wife's like, this doesn't look like it would be exciting for me to do. I'd be terrified out of my mind. She's like, you're crazy for wanting to do this. And she also knew that if I had won the contest, she would have been supportive, because if I get a call tomorrow, I'm there. So even more so now than before, because now having watched this, I'm like, I totally want to do this, even if I'm sick for the whole time. You know, think about like what a once in a lifetime chance. Hopefully we'll all have be able to experience this. At some point, it's going to go from being this adventurous thing to being like flying to Detroit. Oh, what happened? No signal. That's not me, that's them, I think. Did we just lose the feed? Oh, there we go. Okay, so now they're coming back up.
There it is.
They're pulling, oh, that's right, they have like a stairwell, that's right, they pull it back.
Vehicle, to just under the helicopter pad on the vessel.
And you see they're all wearing gas masks because of the hypergolic risk. So this is where they'll do the testing of the air.
Prepared for that hatch opening.
Yeah, this is essentially an egress or a platform for the crew members to exit. Dragon is quite large, and the side hatch is quite a bit a ways up, and so we want to make sure that when we open the side hatch, they can just comfortably get out.
And what they have there is a ladder as they prep for hatch opening. There's a few things that they do have to do here for preparation before they open up that side hatch.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on this. Now, if you wanted to know where the bathroom is, I will show you where it is. So, and this is actually a great photo. This came, I think this was from NASA. So this photo here, this is the seats that they were sitting on. That's the hatch that they're going to come out of. This is where the toilet is, and you see they have a little poop emoji there. So that's where the bathroom is, and there is a privacy curtain that they can pull around themselves.
Down about
and
40 minutes ago,
in orbit,
Dragon
you could sit on the potty and look out at the cupola window that they put on there.
Again,
so that's where the bathroom is.
Inside of the capsule. You can't see their faces, but on the left-hand side of that shot, that's Jared Isaacman, the mission commander. To his right
and that was
is
an
Dr.
answer
Cyan
to
Proctor, the
Valerie's question,
mission pilot.
So we'll keep an eye on this until they come out, and we'll after they get out, I think we can call it a night. But we'll see how much longer they go here. Vorenge loves my energy on the space stuff. So I'm glad you do. You know, I'll tell you what. I grew up in the '80s, right? So when I was in kindergarten was when the space shuttle first went up, and my father worked on the Apollo missions. So I had like this real appreciation for the work that he had done, and he had worked on the batteries for the EVA system. So he worked on the battery that kept the astronauts alive on the moon. So my dad was always into it. Not like I became, but like he was into it. And so that interest obviously got transported to me. So I was in kindergarten when Columbia first launched. And back then, you know, you didn't have the internet, but you had magazines. So Time magazine had this big thing. We would go down to Florida every year to see my grandparents, so we went to the Kennedy Space Center. So we got to see the space shuttles on the pad on the tour, like you got to do all the cool stuff. And so, you know, just totally into it. And then because the space shuttle was like this new thing, there was so much going on in school related to the space shuttle and what the astronauts were doing, because we would get the weekly readers, and NASA's always really good about communicating to the public as part of their mission. So we're just getting so much of this space stuff, and the thought was like, hey, we're in this new era, we're all going to be able to go to space. And then Challenger happened, and they looked at how dangerous the shuttle system really was. And so what's gotten me so emotionally invested in this thing, and why I was so ticked off at how they handled the PR for it, is because like this is the space that I was sold as a kid, that you could do this. even though it's $200 million, it's a lot less than $1 billion, which is what those shuttle missions ended up costing. So, okay, it looks like they're ending the mission. They're coming out. So the hatch is opening.
Great comms.
And oh, look at that. You can see the guy down there. See that?
The side hatch is now officially open, and some exciting waves from the crew. Now they are putting on some protection along the hatch door for while they egress the vehicle here.
So we have members of the recovery team inside the capsule with the crew.
Now, it's
they're doing some checkouts.
This Dragon capsule was used for the first NASA mission that they went up with earlier, and they'll probably use it again.
For 3 days. This is the first time it's opened since we lifted off Wednesday, September 15th. And we have some fist pumps from Jared. I'm sure the entire crew is super excited.
Could see them waving.
Yeah. And here's the other thing to think about with this is that SpaceX now has almost the entire capability of a government space agency. So this is the first space mission that with people that wasn't sponsored by a government. Now, granted, none of this stuff would exist without NASA investment because NASA invested in this. But I covered the last 3 space shuttle launches, and this was during the transitional period to this commercial program. And I don't think people realize that what they did with this commercial crew and cargo program is probably one of the most innovative public government programs in probably the last 50 years. Because what they did is they said to these companies, we are going to contract with you to send astronauts to the space station. We are not going to own the spacecraft. So before, NASA owned the space shuttles. So you're not building these spaceships for us. We're going to pay you a fixed amount of money for a contract to do cargo and crew delivery. And you will stay within the bounds of that contract. And those limitations are what got SpaceX to really work on reusability. Because the more that they could reuse, the less they'd have to build from scratch every time, and the more money they can make. And so it saved the taxpayer. So SpaceX can launch people to the space station, I think, for like $55 million, which is less than the Russians. I think they're less expensive. If the Chinese were doing it, they're less expensive than the Chinese also for the same launch services. They are the least expensive launch provider on the planet. So they've completely disrupted the launch business. Before SpaceX, and this is the truth, before SpaceX, the United States was not launching really any private satellites. The only satellites launching from the US were government satellites that were contracted to fly on this alliance of Lockheed Martin and Boeing. So they massively disrupted the market. They brought the cost of launch down significantly. They saved the taxpayers billions of dollars, and now they've launched a whole cottage industry of, the space business has gotten huge in a very short period of time. And this is not a cost plus arrangement. So typically the way the military does it, you want an aircraft carrier, we are guaranteed a certain amount of profit from the construction of this aircraft carrier. So if you go over budget, they still make money. In this program, they had to stay within the bounds of the budget. And I think what's most significant is that because SpaceX began as a company competing in this commercial, here they are, in this commercial crew business, they were able to, I think they were better equipped to compete. And they beat Boeing to the space station with crew. They beat the incumbent who built the space station because they were more in tune for this lower cost thing. And Boeing is eating, I think, a lot of the cost of the issues they're having with their spacecraft. So they were supposed to do a test flight just recently, and that did not happen. So
some fist bumps going around.
So the question is private enterprise paying for this? So the way they constructed the commercial crew program was that, and I don't think they disclosed exactly how much each party paid, but basically The government put up a certain amount for development, and partly because they had to design the spacecraft for NASA's safety specifications, so they had to build for NASA specifications. So the government put up a certain amount of money, and the commercial providers who were competing had to put up an equal amount or an agreed upon amount of their own money. So a certain amount of private money had to be put in, and a certain amount of public money had to be put in. But when NASA flies astronauts to the space station, they're buying a ride, not a spaceship. So this spaceship was the demo mission that brought the first 2 guys up. This is the one that did that first mission. So they brought it back, they refurbished it, and they sent these folks up on it. So the rocket booster that they used was reused from a prior two. It was the 3rd flight of that rocket booster. 2nd flight for the capsule. The 2nd stage gets thrown out, burned up in the atmosphere. There goes the first crew member. I think that is Haley Arsenault coming out. The first stage comes back, the capsule comes back, the trunk and the 2nd stage burn up. So those are the only 2 pieces that have to get replaced or reconstructed. So it's, they've done a lot here. And this is commercial mission number 1, commercial mission number 2 with 4 more private people, 3 billionaires and a retired astronaut. They're going up in January, and then Tom Cruise. So, but this is the thing. Is like I hear a lot of people's concerns, like we should be focused on Earth. Da, da, da. Think about this. There's a lot of jobs that are being created as a result of this. Jobs in my state, even there's a lot of aerospace in my state of Connecticut here. So, I think it's good for everybody. It doesn't always appear that way. And I think SpaceX more so perhaps than what we've seen from Richard Branson's thing, because Richard Branson is it's a tourism thing. You go up and come down. But these spaceships are doing research work for the government, right? They're going up to the space station to keep that going. They're keeping us very competitive. The Chinese are active, right? So they're up there sending people up. So you got to stay competitive, and I think we'll get to the moon a lot quicker because of it. Because the whole industry now, NASA's now seeing like, geez, this was like the success of the commercial crew program, I think, was probably beyond what they thought it would be. Maybe they hoped it would be this good. There's Haley. She's out. She was a lot of fun to watch on that. Looks like she's doing good. She actually, I think, acclimated the best. She was handling like high G's on the, see how she's a little dizzy? She was handling the high G's on the fighter jets pretty well, too. So I think...
it looks like up next is Dr. Cyan Proctor.
Cyan Proctor is coming out next.
Yeah, this is very exciting for the crew to be exiting the capsule and finishing their Inspiration 4 mission, a mission that's done so much for folks around the world.
So here's what I will say on this commercial space stuff, is that it saved the taxpayers billions. It accelerated an industry that was stagnant in this country significantly, created a lot of jobs, and it's booming. So it's all good. It's all good. Saved taxpayer billions and created a lot of jobs and stimulated the economy. Good. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. There she is. She's in good shape. Last thing you want to do is fall over. Can you imagine like how you must feel after this? So she's good. She's walking. That's awesome. I think she is awesome. Even though she beat me, I think she's awesome. I would have picked her too, honestly. If I had a choice, I was like, you know what? You definitely are more qualified than I am. She's great. And this is Chris Dombrowski. And the captain stays to the end. So the commander is the helmet you see there. That's Jared Isaacman, the guy that paid for it. And by the way, he paid for this. He doesn't get to keep the spaceship. SpaceX will use this again. And you see that guy with that steady cam there? That's the Netflix guy.
That is Chris Dombrowski, again, the mission specialist.
Get the shot. Get the shot, I'm sure his director is telling him. Get the shot. So that's the camera you see to the left. That's the Netflix guy.
All over his face, super excited, ready to go.
See, that's the random dad. So that would be the one, like, I would have been the random dad if I had won. And here comes Jared Isaacman.
Getting ready to egress the vehicle as well. The final 4th Inspiration 4 crew member
But yeah, I think they did this right. You know, like it's not a bunch of billionaires. It's for a good cause. We've raised some money tonight for St. Jude, so we did great here, folks. So thank you all for your contributions to St. Jude. In lieu of super chats. Those don't go to me, they go to St. Jude. So you hit the little heart button down there. St. Jude gets money if you give it to them. Here's Jared. He's a little wobbly.
So excited.
But they all made it. And the SpaceX system is actually pretty safe. I mean, they've got a lot of safety controls on these that were lacking on the space shuttle, especially because they can abort even after launch. All right, so they are out. That is it. So yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we did this. I was upset I couldn't do the launch because I had to be somewhere. So yeah, so now it's Starship, which is of course SpaceX's big, huge rocket. We'll do some. If you all let me know if you liked this. Let me know in the chat because I would love to do more of these. So let me know what you want to do, and I will do what you wish. So yeah, it was good stuff. And Aaron thinks yes. I think the last episode of that documentary will be fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Like I said, I'll have more to say on what I thought of the entire PR effort because I think they dropped the ball on the PR effort, and I'll talk more about it. But yeah, so people like this, so we will definitely do some. Danny Boy enjoyed it. Yeah, it's fun too because, and we got a customer on Amazon who enjoyed it too. So yeah, hit the follow button. Whenever I can, I usually do one of these coverage things. And then if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a lot of, let's see, let me go find the right playlist. Let's see, is it Lon.TV/space maybe? Let's see. Yes. So if you go to Lon.TV/space, I have a bunch of content, and I have been to, here, I'll pull it up on screen here so you can see one of them. I went to the Falcon Heavy launch. It's actually one of my only 4K videos that I've done. And we had a really fun time at that. Here, I'll pull this up on screen here so you can all see it. Let me pull it up here and go. So they, here, give me 1 second. I'm going to fix this real quick. I got to just fix one thing here. Layers. Turn off my layers. None. Okay, so, oops, we pulled up somebody else's YouTube video. Let me get rid of this. So yeah, we went down to, I got to fix one more thing. Hang on 1 second here, folks. I'll show you exactly what this is. And let's close that out. Reset all. There we go. Okay. And let me get rid of that. So we went down to the Kennedy Space Center. So I have gotten credentialed in the past. And we rented a Corvette. This is my friend Antonio and I. A long story on the Corvette. But one of the cool things about when you cover the Space Center is that you can just go on down there. So they let you in. Like, look at that. So we got credentialed and we covered the launch of the Falcon Heavy. Isn't that cool? So that's actually the same pad that they just launched from. So we were there, inside the fence. And that rock path there is where the crawler used to go for the space shuttle. So the crawler would go through this and then up and around and would drop the space shuttle off on the pad up there. And the Falcon Heavy, here, I'll show you some pictures of it. Yeah, so the Falcon Heavy is 3 of the SpaceX Dragons strapped together. And so we saw, you can check out the video. It's called SpaceX Falcon Heavy Launch Experience and Tour. And check it out. They had, we saw that. We weren't there, but we saw the boosters come down. All of that's in the video. It's really cool. And if you have headphones, we captured the audio. So on a Zoom recorder, it's like really high quality audio. So you get a real good sense as to what it feels like to be there. Isn't that awesome? It was crazy. That thing was loud. Because this is their Falcon Heavy, so it's got 27 engines. And that sucker just went off. Like, it was fast. Super fast. It was crazy. And then the sonic booms when it came back down, like just, it's all in the video, so check it out. It was a lot of fun. And we did the space shuttle, so I went to the last 3 space shuttle launches, so I've had a lot of fun with cool stuff like that. Ed Horn was at a TV department store in a large mall with his sister and parents watching Neil. That's cool. See, everybody remembered where they were when he landed on the moon. And he had Walter Cronkite to kind of narrate it. You know, that was what was fun about that. Here, I'll pull this. I can do like one of these things here. Look at that. There we go. So yeah, that was fun. So Fat Angus wants to see some more. Ian's, yeah, so I've done a few of these. I did one for the Mars landing. That was really cool. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get them to do this with me. I am trying to get an interview with somebody who worked on there's a mini PC on the Mars rover, a little Intel mini PC. So we're trying to get somebody on to talk about that. So check it out. And good, I'm glad you all enjoyed this. Here's a good question. Sanix is wondering, how good is space travel for the atmosphere? So it depends on who's launching. So the SpaceX one, they use kerosene, so that's not as good. But the space shuttle used the solid rocket motors that had their own environmental impacts. And they also used a liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen mixture. So a lot of the exhaust on the space shuttle was water vapor, so that was not as bad. But comparatively, a single Falcon 9 rocket launch from a carbon standpoint is not as bad as all the cars that drive on the road every day. So it's it's not great, but it's not as bad as like all the air traffic and vehicle traffic in the world. Lon.TV has somewhere up an 8mm. Oh, cool. That'd be neat to see that. So that was like recording of your TV, seeing it. That must be neat. I met a person at the NASA press site who was there. And he was telling me all sorts of cool stuff. Yes, this was the Falcon Heavy launch. And then we also, here, let me find a few others that we did, and then I'll go. My family's not, I don't know where the kids are. They went to the beach today. They're at my father's house, so they're probably still there. So we did the NASA Perseverance, or the rover landing. So this was a live stream. This one was actually my favorite live stream because it was like, I actually prepared for it. So we kind of did what we did here with the green screen, and we covered the NASA feed and kind of giving people an idea as to how it came together. So that was a fun one. And then we did, we had the interview with the guy so this guy, Roy Gladden, he is the guy in charge of the communications from Mars to Earth. Isn't that cool? So we interviewed him. But I don't get a lot of views on this stuff. Like 2,600 views is all we got on that. So it makes me depressed when I don't get a lot of viewer interest in these things. And then I did another one on all the things that this one you should watch. So if you're into the space program, this is one that I did on all of my trips down to the space stuff. So I've got a lot of pictures that I took of the facilities where they prepare all the stuff. We saw the last toilet on Earth. This is actually at the launch pad. And I got to go inside Space Shuttle Discovery, so I've got a whole bunch of stuff on that. So you should check it out. This is a fun one because it kind of shows you all the different things that go into covering a space launch and my experiences there. So that was a lot of fun. And then what else did we do here? Oh, and then I went to a SpaceX launch. So this was back in the 2015 era. And we went down and saw the launch of the Discover probe, which went 1 million miles away from Earth. And I had to go back and forth like 5 or 6 times because they kept canceling it and pushing it back. And this was right before they started recovering the boosters. But this is my footage. Isn't that awesome? So I took that. And that's how close you get. And from where we were, that's what you would see. So that was a lot of fun. So that was really cool. So yeah, so check it out, Lon.TV/space. And I've got a lot of stuff here. This is the space shuttle tour. I've got some of my really old stuff. This is like one of the first things I ever did down here. So check it all out. It's a lot of good stuff. We interviewed Elmo. at one of these things. Space Shuttle Atlantis landing. We had, this is all stuff that everything here is stuff that I produced. So Lon.TV/space. So check it out. Lon Dog enjoyed the footage, the coverage. I try not to get too techie because there's a lot of great channels like NASA Spaceflight and the Everyday Astronaut. Those guys do great work. So I try to be a little less technical. And in case you're just tuning in, they landed, everybody's good, the broadcast is over, but we saw them get out. And yes, Falcon Heavy is going up, I think, in the next couple of weeks. Let me look and see when that is. Falcon Heavy, I'll look it up here, Falcon Heavy. So they've got a payload going up in, I think it's soon, because they're getting it ready in October. So it's going up next month, Falcon Heavy. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a military mission. So you will see it launch and the boosters come down, but you won't see it past that. So that is coming up. And here's the other thing I like to do. I like to involve the viewers in this stuff. I want to figure out a way to get people to call in also, so we'll figure out how we do that. Fat Angus enjoyed the Deep Space Network interview. Yeah, this was a fun one, right? Like, we got a real good back and forth with them. And it was cool because we learned some things. I learned a lot about how it works. So that was a lot of fun. So we'll do more with that. And that's the thing. It's just hard to get viewership on this. The general public is really, it's weird. You know what it is I think that I don't think people are aware of how hard this is. And it's cliche when people say, oh, space is hard, and it is. But it's, I think we take for granted that people can go to space. And it's been happening for so long, so it's, I was born after Apollo, so it's my whole life people have been able to go to space. So it's not that interesting to people. But we got to figure out a way to get the public interested in a way that engages them better, because the whole moon thing fell apart because people were not into it. So, in any event, I am going to depart and get the house ready for the children who will be coming home soon, who need to go to bed because we got to be up early tomorrow. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you very much. And this was a fun stream to do. I'm glad the crew made it back safe. So to recap, the Inspiration 4 crew went up for 3 days. They came back. They're safe. They're healthy. They're on the boat. They're going back to NASA headquarters or SpaceX headquarters, I guess, to get reacclimated with Earth and their families. So we are in good shape here. So, and here's the other thing is that the space content has grown a lot, and I think this is the thing. So that you will see a lot of viewership on these launches. But I have a feeling it's limited to the niche or the niche, however you want to pronounce it, of people that are into space content. And there's certainly a lot more than there used to be. Because when I first started doing space content, it was hard to get any audience for anything. So I think that's changed a bit. But I think the people that are really following these launches are like, and I'm not being critical of these folks at all, but they're really into space like I am. And I'm trying to find a way to reach a more general audience with the content that I do. And that's the approach I'm trying to take. It's just hard because it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that because the general public isn't all that interested, the YouTube algorithm is not delivering generalized space videos to the public because they know it's not going to deliver watch time, right? It's like, it's a cyclical redundancy kind of thing. So we'll see where it goes. And then, so the Elmo interview that we did, and that's at Lon.TV/space where you can see all that. What I did was, rather than just interview Elmo, I put out a call on my Facebook that morning for people to send me questions to ask Elmo. So we got questions from kids for Elmo, which was really fun. So this is the Elmo interview. You can definitely check it out. And this was cool. It was kind of neat to see the whole process of how they do things. I don't have audio on this, do I? No. Can I get audio out of this? maybe. Yes, I can get audio out of this. Hang on. Here, I'll play this real quick. This was a fun one. I just got to find which input it's coming in on. Master NDI Spark. I'm not getting any audio. I may not be able to give you audio, folks. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, it's going in through the NDI. Yeah, I'm not able to get audio out of this for some reason. Let's see. Yeah, it's not working. Unless I have, no, the volume's up. Yeah, I can't give you audio. Just go and check it out, Lon.TV/space, and you'll see it there. But it was fun. And he chastised me for not watching enough Sesame Street. Now I see more of it because I have kids, but it's good stuff. All right. Well, Kayla enjoyed it. Incredible launch and splashdown. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think this did get some people more engaged. So this was good for that. And that's what killed me, because they got everybody hooked on it. Like, wow, this is actually happening. Real people are going to space. And then like we didn't hear from them for a day and a half. That's what killed me. So yeah, get people back on the moon. Yeah, the flat earthers always show up here. So it's, oh, that's a good idea, Diesabel. I'll have to play around with that. Yeah, we're going to play around with getting some live callers in, because I think that would be a fun way to engage people. So, all right. I got a jet, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. My kids just arrived home with my wife, so I got to get to work, put the kids to bed, so that I can go to bed and then get up early tomorrow and drive the kids to something we have to go to in the morning. So, never ends. But I will see you all on the next live stream, which will almost undoubtedly be next week. So I will see you all in a little bit. Thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.